Hello and welcome to our home. This is Briella. I am a nanny for her and I have watched children in a daycare for over 2 years. And this topic that we're about to talk about is something that I've wrestled with for quite some time. And that's the dog lapping up her water. I have felt strongly about this for quite some time, and I would just like to share it with you and hopefully explain it to you in a way that you would also feel the same way. I'll sit down here for you. First off, children with special needs should be integrated into our children's daily lives. We've all walked through the grocery store before and heard the child say, "Mom, what's wrong with that little girl?" Or, what's wrong with that woman? Or whoever it is that has a disability or is just someone who's different than them. When we exclude our children from people who are different than them, they often build up barriers and they think that they're better, or they're confused as to where those people stand in society. So point 1, separating children by ability in a care setting can cause a pride in child that will be a hindrance in their character. It's impossible for children to be blind to others' abilities and inabilities. I'm not saying that when we put a child into a classroom that has both children with special needs and children without special needs, or even advanced children, that they will now never see a difference in between them and someone else. But that won't be the focus. When we separate children from one another due to a bias in character or ability, they notice the difference and they point them out that way, and we don't want that. When I taught at a local daycare, we had an autistic child who was a part of our daycare life, and he seriously changed a lot of the children's opinions of, one, themselves, but two, that particular child. I was with a very talented young child who was, wealthy and, from an affluent situation, whereas the other child was poor, and he'd actually just lost his mom, and he didn't know it because he was severely autistic. But I told the little girl one day, she had asked me, why is he treated different? What is it about him that he doesn't get to do these things, or he does get to do these things? And I said, he thinks a different way and he feels a different way than we do sometimes, and he needs friends just like we do. And later that year, I saw her reading books to him, and she used to call him her best friend, and she would follow him around and take care of him, and she would look out for him. And it was like, when children understand that there's a reason they're different, they tend to, and it's not always the case, and that's where this runs a shy line in between a teacher's responsibility and the child's responsibility. But that moment where the child feels connected and can feel like a part of the rest of the group, even though they're different, that's worth it to me. And it can affect that child, the affluent child's perspective of themselves. So beyond being a way of humility, like producing humility in a child who is from an affluent home, bringing children together encourages equality. Children need to learn while they are different from others, they are equal in value. For the Lord your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. That's Deuteronomy 10:17. We see throughout the Bible the character of God is even. And with children, there is no way to compare one from the other, or their development from one to the other. While they have different struggles, different needs, different desires, those do not affect the way we should love and care for them. At least in a daycare setting, this is 100% true. In a school setting, there is that educational line where we have to say, so and so's not learning like the other children, and so then he does need to be catered to in that way and tutored separately, maybe. But as far as recess and art class and gym class go, things like that, they should be together because it teaches children that they are equal to and just as valuable as the other children who aren't like them. My last point is blurring the lines of difference in areas opens up the opportunities to grow the community for the better. Christ always sought out those who were weak and powerless. Those people who were weak and powerless were often the ones who changed the world. They influenced their society and their community for the better. We oftentimes push ourselves to believe that if you're not up to this quota or you're not up to this learning standard or you miss this or you miss that, that you're all of a sudden not good enough. And a lot of times that leads other children to be behind in school. When you separate a child and say, oh, you're advanced, you're doing so great, oftentimes that's because mom and dad sit down with them before bed and read them a book. Or they are catered to. They may have a tutor, or they may have special opportunities. They take field trips with mom and dad, whereas children who are less fortunate, they get pushed behind because they're not advanced, or they are, maybe even have a learning disability. But to sit beside those children who are advanced, or those children who are encouraged by their parents to do better, they have the ability to then grasp onto that desire for knowledge, and that can often change things. And even with like inspiration in art, if you go to art class and you have a child whose mom is an artist and he's just super good at art, that inspires you. And that's really where, as a community, we fail because we separate ourselves a bit due to money and circumstances. In the community, there should be this equality. We talk about a difference in races, like, oh, you're being racist, but how can we be judgmental toward those who aren't as fortunate as we are? We should be reaching out our hands to those who are less fortunate, those who struggle, and I find that very hard to believe. Finally, I think one of the biggest things, and I read an article on it that I'll link in my comments, but the attitude of the teacher makes so much of a difference. I can't promise that this will work out for everyone who tries it. You can integrate special needs children, but yet completely disregard that the children won't learn how to handle others that are different than them without a good, really Christian teacher. It takes so much to lead children, and it's important that we do it the right way. So if you were a parent of special needs children, would you want them to be excluded? Would you want them to be set aside and told they're not good enough and that they won't amount to anything, and that their only friends can be those who are also struggling with special needs? I don't think that's right. I don't think you should either. Children should be encouraged to want humility, equality, and a future of diversity through a classroom that exemplifies it. When you get the opportunity to teach the children around you, to care for and to love everyone around them, I do my best to try to teach that, whether it's when you walk in a grocery store and you just tell them to say hello, or you have polite and simple greetings to everyone, no matter how different they are from you, or what their place is in this world. It's important for us to be just like Christ. Thank you for your time, and I hope you've learned something.